services. So this is us getting together. Last week we talked about culture. Tonight I'm continuing culture part 2, okay? So as a recap, it's chaos out there. As a recap from last week, and if you have a phone, if you could pull it out, open the notes app so that you can take some of these notes, because this is the what we're trying to go for in the establishment of the culture for Vivid. So I covered three different core values last week, and I'll cover 3 more tonight. But recap, simply, what is culture? What does that mean? Like, what that word's a nebulous, ethereal idea. It's a concept that every one of us have been a part of a culture. Your family has a culture. Your business or job has a culture. Every church has a culture. Everything has a cultural element attached to it. And culture is simply the customary beliefs, social norms, and material traits of a religious, racial, or social group. And it's the characteristic features of everyday existence that such a group shares. Okay? But in all of that, it's important to know that culture and creating it, it starts with values. So what you value determines what you spend your time on, and what you spend your time on and what you do creates culture. Culture eats vision for lunch. You can wish for something, you can want something, you can desire something. However, culture will take what you want to see happen and it will just swallow it up if the culture's not right. Okay, so I stated last week that our first 3 things in the Vivid culture that we're trying to establish is, 1, that we value people. Value people, value people, value people, value people. And that there's 3 primary ways we do that: through our attention, our affirmation, and our appreciation. Okay? When you give your attention to somebody, they know that you have valued them. You know that somebody does not value you if you're in a conversation with them and they know, you know that you do not have that person's attention because they're fully distracted and they have no idea what you're saying. They aren't valuing you, okay? Then to affirm somebody also shows that you value them. To appreciate them shows that you value them. Valuing people is so important. People don't leave bad jobs, they leave bad bosses because they feel devalued. Okay, that's the way the process works. And that's one of the number one, if not the number one thing that everybody wants to feel is valued. It's interesting that the word isn't necessarily loved, but valued. It has a whole different connotation attached to it. And lastly on this, John Maxwell says, every day I bookend my day with 2 questions that are similar. I wake up and I ask myself, who do I want to add value to today? And how can I do it? And then I end my day by saying, who did I add value to today? And how did I do it? Okay. So adding value to people and valuing the people around us is a the number one cultural norm that I am saying when I look down the road 3 to 5 years and I see the church, I see the team and or staff, at the forefront of that will be a group of people that values people. So it may not sound very sexy or sculpted or wordsmithed out just yet, but it is true, and it is something that even its simplicity, I think we all resonate with, and we're like, yeah, I want to be a part of that. You know, I want to be valued. I want to help value people. That just is so exciting to actually latch onto. Then the second one was that we would have a passionate culture. You need passion to inspire, and passion transforms a job into what somebody would say a calling. Okay, passionate people. You don't want to be around people who are constantly looking like they're miserable in what it is that they're doing. That's the fastest way for you to be like, all right, I'm out of here with this guy. So a passionate culture where people, in my opinion, when I look down the road 3 to 5 years, those people are fired up to be a part of this church. That they're like, you know, and this is the quote here, when passion meets inspiration, an obsession is born. So church is not a hobby to me. church and getting together with people and hanging out with people and preaching the word, all these things, worshiping together. Like, this is not just a hobby that I enjoy doing. It's a passionate piece of me that just oozes. I love this thing, and I want a passionate culture. And then the third thing we covered was a culture of excellence. Excellence, in a quick slogan, just is the idea that we look at things and we say, make it better, make it better, make it better, make it better. The idea that Disney and Disneyland and Disney World would paint their theme park every day is literally insane to me. That they have people on staff with paintbrushes running around with the color orange, smearing new orange paint on random posts and stuff. That's a culture of excellence. That if you care about the paint so much that you're willing to say, we'll pay for paint every day. Because who knows if a little kid kicked his shoe against that light pole that was orange, in my analogy. We want that scuff off there because we want that light pole to be the greatest light pole that anybody ever saw, right? I just think, like, okay, I think the church has an element where we simply, in my perception of what I'm going after for Vivid, where we say, if we're going to do it, it won't be done halfway. It will be done with preparation, on time, and to the best of our ability. And when you do things like that all the time, you create a culture of excellence. Voila. That's all the recap. That's all the recap from last week. So if you'd like a deeper dive on that, the video that we are recording right now, the video from last week is on the YouTube channel for Vivid Church. So if you'd like to go even further with those three things, at Vivid Church SC on YouTube, and you will find it. Okay. 3 more values tonight. I wanted to do 4, but I don't think we'll have time. So 3 more values that I want to hit on tonight. Now I'm really excited because that was all older content, and there's nothing like a fresh word, as the old Pentecostal would say. Okay, so value number 4, at least in this series that we're in right now, I want to create, when I see our church 3 to 5 years from now, I see a wildly inclusive invite culture. Invite culture, invite culture, invite culture. Okay. An invite culture means that anybody and everybody is welcomed. That anybody with a pulse, which would be everybody, is welcomed, okay? I use the analogy to show you what type of culture that I'm thinking of and that I see in all of this from what I call the Rescue Society. Some of you have heard me talk about this before, but I want to make sure that we're all on the same page with it. Back in the early 1900s, there were some sailboats and some sailboaters that were off the coast of New England. And as they would race these different boats throughout the week, different ones would capsize. And it was incredibly dangerous because as they would capsize, there was basically no group of people that had been created to go out there and save them. And so different people would just literally drown in the water because there was no system to get them out of the water if they capsized. One of the few lucky people who had that happen to them and actually did survive decided that he, on race days, instead of racing, would wait on the shore, and as he saw different boats possibly capsizing, he would take his and he would go out there, he would rescue them, and he would bring them back to shore. He did this time and again, and he'd take people out, afterwards and say, man, what happened? And he'd try to get a diagnosis on the situation. And as he did this, he started asking them, well, how about you come help me? And if you come help me, then we can literally, there's plenty of people we weren't able to get to today. We could get to twice as many people because we've got your boat and my boat. This kept going on, and they would go out, rescue more people, and come back. They'd take them out. They would do the whole thing, rinse and repeat. And eventually, it determined that they had to create what this is called a rescue society. So these rescue societies literally popped up, and they were going out into the water, saving people from drowning and rescuing them and pulling them back to shore. But something really, really interesting happened to these societies. They fell in love with the after parties, and they fell in love with, after they had gotten rescued, they got introduced to all the cheese and the wine and the food and the great fish and all of this stuff. And they decided, well, what if we upgraded our boats, and those people who came out of the water into the society, what if we showed them a really good time? So they upgraded the boats, and then they started to dress up. And what happened, interestingly enough, is that the rescue society actually quit rescuing people. And that is when the very first ever yacht club was born, out of a former rescue society. Without being too brash in all of this, I'd say this. A lot of our churches that I see today used to be rescue societies and have morphed in some capacity to become yacht clubs. And as you know, a yacht club works off of membership, and once you're in, and if you're not, you're not. And that is the way the chasm works. I listen to me, if you're wondering what type of culture that I see us having, this is a rescue society. That this is a rescue society in the making and currently is right now. That we will fight the yacht club mentality to simply get as many people who believe what we believe and think what we think, all in the same room, and leave that alone. That an invite culture means that, yes, you're inviting anybody who's next to you, but you're also very aware that you want to invite people who are drowning in the water, who need to be rescued. That there are people who need the message of Jesus, that need the message of what the church is all about. And that type of invite culture means that we are wildly inclusive. That anybody can come, anybody can be in this thing, that there is not a door that it's like, yeah, you literally can't be a part of this. Invite culture is critical, and it's one of the most important things that we have to have. Okay? Invite culture. Here's a phrase that I like to say: get it while the pus is forming. I know, but it's a great analogy. Yeah, get it while the pus is forming, okay? Lots of people have, most people have one of two problems. They either have a God problem or a family problem. And we want to get it while the pus is forming. Here's what I mean. We're going to go further. You get a hangnail, okay? The hangnail left long enough becomes an infected hangnail. An infected hangnail left long enough, undetected, untouched, will eventually result in amputation. All right. So you want to catch problems, and we want to meet people and get them when that hangnail is infected. When that hangnail is infected, you need a doctor immediately, and you will do whatever it takes to get somebody to help you out. If you have a problem with your family or with the Lord or in a relational context, as a church, we want to get it.
No, don't say it. Again.
Okay, so that's an invite culture. So if in your I know this stuff is like super, super simple, but I think it's some of the simplest things are the hardest to do. When you hear that somebody has an infected problem, that's the perfect moment for an invite. Hey, it sounds like your life is in shambles. Maybe you should give us a try, right? That just simply means that there's transitional moments in anybody's life where they're infected and they are screaming, help me, but they aren't saying those words. And so I want to enculturate us to think that there's always room for an invite in anybody. But the best time to invite somebody is when that problem that they're experiencing is overwhelming them, because the road forks when that problem gets bad enough. And when that problem gets bad enough and the road forks, I don't want them taking the wrong turn. Am I making sense? That this is the right turn to make. Invite culture is what I want to create, okay? The next one on tonight's list, which would be value number 5, is this: a serving culture. Serving culture. A serving culture, here's what I mean. I want to find volunteers who won't go away. I want to look around and there you are. I cannot get rid of you. I don't know why. I don't know if you're magnetically attached. I don't know what it is. But in the right culture, I think it's actually really healthy to find people who, it relates back to passion, who love what they do and love it to the degree that you can't get rid of them because they eat and love it and breathe it and they want to serve. So serving is a part of what we're doing. I've done more serving in a lot of areas that I've never done before in the last year than I ever did in any other church culture, out of sheer necessity. And now it's forced me into conversations with people I never would have met otherwise. So serving can look like a ton of different things. Obviously, as I'm thinking future, serving in a Sunday capacity, in a volunteer role on a Sunday to help pull off a service is huge. But there's also a plethora of outreach serving opportunities that we will have. And what I simply mean is that creating a culture of serving is where people shift their mindset from, oh my gosh, I have to do this, to, man, I get to be a part of this. That's a serving culture. This is a forced work culture. I have to do this. I have to show up. You dread being a part of it all. I would say this, and this is just probably a statement I'll lace in time and again through our church, whether that's on a stage or in a room like this or in a growth track, that if you can't serve Vivid Church, you probably need to find another church that you can serve. Because I want to release you into a place that you love so that you can serve them with all your heart. Am I making sense there? Because that's literally what Jesus said. He said, nobody is greater than the master, but he calls himself a servant, that I am a servant. And so to serve is part of what we do, who we are as a people. And right now I know that's like, okay, well, I'm ready, like put me in a position. I need help. I don't know where I can serve. That is on me to help, push lanes out there and all those things. But part of a serving culture is also creating a culture where you empower the people's gifts around you. So I never want to be the guy that's like, I've got this idea that I just want to farm out and rally people to serve the idea. Because you may or may not be gifted with that idea, and that goes against the other value I have of people being passionate about what they're doing. And it ties into this. If they're not passionate about that idea, they might just do it out of obligation. Rather, I would like to find somebody who's like, man, I've got a great idea. Pastor, what if we did this? I would really love to see this happen in our church. Then I'm starting to hear, oh, that's a person's gift that they naturally want to help in this way. I want to help them serve our church using that gift. So here's the question I ask. When I'm meeting with people, I try to ask them, if time and money were no object, what would you do for the kingdom of God? Take time off the table, take money off the table, boil it down to you could literally do anything. What would you do for the kingdom of God? Their response is usually what they're, one, passionate about, and what they would serve their tail off because they love doing that thing. I want to create a church where the answer to that question is embraced and released. Does that make sense? So yeah, like I've got to create certain things that we obviously can serve in, but more so I'm concerned with finding what gifts that God's already given you, and I'm just the guy that empowers that gifting to be on display and to show off, because that's where you'll serve best. So a serving culture looks like that because all the right attitudes are attached to it. People are happier in that way. People are more excited in that way. People actually want to serve when they're doing those things that they're really, really gifted at. Okay, and 3, a giving culture. Giving culture. Giving culture. Generosity is our privilege, okay? Generosity in our time, obviously. We're all here tonight and everybody is generously giving themselves over to be here. Generous in our talents and our gifted nature, which relates back to serving, but obviously too, generous in our money. So I want to create a generosity culture at Vivid Church where it is just a joy for us to be able to give. I love finding an opportunity to give. And the story that I think the first one I have, when I was maybe 8 or 9 years old at Christmas, we got my aunt, me and my mom and my sister, a specific gift. And she had no idea we were getting it for her, but we had heard her talk about this gift since maybe July or August. And we had kept it in our minds like, we want to get her that gift, you know. And it was something she'd never get herself and all that. And we decided to get her this. And I remember sitting there in her house, in her living room, next to her Christmas tree. And we hand her this box. And it's wrapped and all, but her mind goes to what she thinks it is. And she looks at all of us and she was like, please don't tell me this is what I think it is. She hasn't even opened it yet, but she's anticipating what it could be. And we get excited and I stand up and I'm pacing and I'm like, I hope it's what you think it is. I hope it's what you think it is. Because it would really suck if you're going to be disappointed. And she starts kind of like slowly ripping into it and we all start laughing and we're like, you've got to go. And she's like, I don't want to open it. I don't know. It might be the exact thing. And this goes on and on and on. And eventually she opens it. She sees the picture on the front and she just flings her head back in total joy and laughter. And she was like, this is what I thought it was. And the verse that comes to mind to think about this moment is, it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. Because she was the recipient of the gift. But I know that me and my mom and my sister, when we got in that car that night and we drove off, it was all we could talk about was, did you see her face? Did you see how excited she was? I'm so glad we did that. It doesn't matter what it cost, right? Who cares what that numerical value, the sticker tag attached to it cost? The moment that we were able to give her something that really and truly touched her in an amazing way, that was the moment that was super special for us. So a culture of generosity is one that I will continually talk about, but it starts with us in this room understanding that it is more blessed to give than it is to receive. And to give to God's church is the highest thing that you can invest into. I mean, this is the rescue society that takes people out of all the perils of darkness and into what I would call the vivid life. And so we get to invest in that, yes, with our time, yes, with our talent, but also with our treasure, our money. We get to invest financially into what God is asking us to, so that we can continually see all that He wants come to pass. That generosity, it's a privilege to be able to give. And in this way, that's a culture that I am looking to create when I look down the road 3 to 5 years. Okay, so in brevity, for recap, a value culture, a passionate culture, a culture of excellence, an invite culture, a serving culture, and a giving culture. Okay, so next week, we're supposed to move on to expectations and team. We might mingle that with one or other 2 culture ideas. It's hard to actually condense everything down into just a few words, and you're like, and that's the culture right there. I mean, I was drafting out so many different things, and have been literally for a year. I have just documents upon documents, but at some point you do have to trim it. So those are the ones that at this stage of the game, I look at and go, if we nail those things, we will have a really amazing place and a really amazing group of people that I will love being a part of, you will love being a part of, and consequently, other people who haven't even joined will love being a part of. That we value people all the time. In that we're passionate about what we do. We're driven by excellence. We are wildly invitational. We love to serve, and we passionately give. I think that sounds like a pretty amazing place right there. Imagine if, not just us, but if every organization, not just the church, every organization embodied those things. Would you ever want to walk away from a place like that? Imagine what it would look like. Imagine what the world would look like if we, as a group, if we did that, but if every single place was able to have that kind of culture, I think it would be so magnetic and contagious that people would flock to it. I believe that about us. I believe that if we get these things right, that we can experience that on the backside.